Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a massive, fundamental shift happening right now in our industry. We're talking about the new, absolutely critical role of human judgment in the era of AI software factories. As it gets easier and easier to just generate code out of thin air, the true bottleneck in development is entirely shifting. So today we're exploring some brilliant insights from Adi Osmani on how the engineer of the future is going to be defined, not by how much code they can pump out, but by what they can actually answer for.
So let's just dive right into the existential question on literally every engineer's mind right now. With AI-generated and AI-assisted code rapidly becoming the absolute norm, and with autonomous agents doing more work faster and in parallel than we ever could, what exactly are we still good for? Seriously, if an agent can ship more pull requests in a day than any of us can even review, where do we fit into the picture? I mean, if Homer Simpson taught us anything about automating his computer, just smashing the Y key over and over isn't exactly a long-term career strategy, right?
To figure out how we actually move from feeling completely replaced to feeling incredibly empowered, we're going to walk through this exact roadmap today. We'll cover the AI engineering shift, the verification bottleneck, mental models like alpha and taste, a few dangerous traps to avoid, the agency ladder, and finally, a brand new golden rule for shipping software.
All right, part one, the AI engineering shift and how our roles are evolving. Think about how insanely fast things are moving right now. Just a few years ago, we were doing what's called harness engineering. That's where the coding agent was basically just the model plus a harness. Your context, your tools, your file system. Then, merely months ago, we leveled up to loop engineering. We were designing systems that kept prompting, checking, and deciding what happens next. But today, right now, we are operating in full-blown software factories. Intelligence has literally been delegated to agentic infrastructure. You've got agents running continuously inside an inner loop, endlessly pumping out evidence, diffs, and tests.
And because of this ridiculous speed, our old job titles, they're completely blurring. Boris Cherny put out this great taxonomy showing how roles are rebundling around these specific engineering modes: prototype, build, sweep, grow, and maintain. Agents are going to help with literally all of these, so the scarce resource is no longer doing the manual task. The real skill is knowing which mode your product needs, what the quality bar is, and who ultimately owns the result. The question isn't what's your title anymore, it's what part of the system do you actually own?
Which brings us to part two, the verification bottleneck, distrust versus bandwidth.
Get a load of this number. According to recent survey data from Sonar, a staggering 96% of people do not fully trust AI-generated code. And hey, engineers aren't naive. Almost everyone is inherently, entirely skeptical of the code these models are spitting out.
But here is where the math gets genuinely terrifying. Despite that massive 96% distrust, only about half of engineers actually take the time to always verify that code before committing it to the code base. We love building these fancy engineering loops and software factories, but our core problem hasn't changed: human capacity.
So, the crucial takeaway here is this highly dangerous state of distrust without bandwidth. Look, making code generation cheaper absolutely does not automatically make code review cheaper. When your corporate governance can't catch up and AI adoption moves way faster than company policy, validation becomes this massive, choking bottleneck. We're constantly scrambling to answer hard questions. Hey, did a model touch this file? What constraints guided this work? And most importantly, who actually owns this final result? Moving on to part three, alpha, decay, and taste. Basically how we define our unique human value moving forward. I want you to think of your career right now in terms of alpha and decay. Your alpha is the gap between what you can personally do today and what current AI models can do. But decay? That's the ticking clock on that gap. If the thing that makes you special at your job is just a raw capability like, say, writing a specific boilerplate function incredibly fast, the frontier of AI is eventually going to come for it. Raw speed and recall used to be our human alpha, but man, those are decaying rapidly.
And that is exactly why this concept of taste matters so much. I absolutely love this definition from Mitchell Hashimoto. He says, taste is the ability to make high-quality qualitative judgments where no objective metric exists yet. It's putting your personal judgment on the line before the benchmark is set, before the market has even voted. Think about it. When AI can generate 10 totally different options for you instantly at pretty much zero cost, the highly scarce, incredibly valuable human skill is having the taste to know which single option actually deserves to exist.
Okay, part four, 3 traps to avoid. We've got to navigate these AI pitfalls very carefully.
Trap number 1 is cognitive debt. This is the gradual erosion of your understanding and your memory around how to actually solve problems, simply because you're constantly deferring to an AI. For us developers, this manifests as that deeply terrifying gap between how much code is sitting in your repo and how much your team genuinely understands. If your agents are out there running long horizon tasks, like an hour or a full day long, you can so easily lose the thread of how your own system even works.
The second trap is cognitive surrender. Now, delegation is great. It means, hey, do this work and show me the evidence so I can judge it. Surrender, on the other hand, happens when you just blindly accept the AI's response before you even bother to form your own opinion. A recent Wharton study flashed a huge warning light about this. They found that when AI was completely wrong, 73% of people still accepted the answer and, get this, actually felt more sure about it. That's called borrowed confidence, and it is a massive, massive failure mode.
Trap number 3 is the orchestration tax. You'll hear folks bragging on Twitter about running hundreds or thousands of agents in parallel. But let's get real for a second. Your personal cognitive bandwidth absolutely does not parallelize. Every single loop you create just causes more decisions for you to route, to merge, to verify, and integrate. Having more AI agents running in the background doesn't magically mean there's more of you available to manage them.
Section 5, the agency ladder, and how we actually elevate our value to beat those traps.
So, the agency ladder is this great framework showing how we move up the value chain. Down at the bottom, someone might just flag a problem. Moving up a bit, they might execute, propose a fix, or actually resolve it. But the truly rare, top-tier level, that is discernment. High agency isn't about just hustling and grinding and doing everything yourself. It's about operating at that very top level of discernment. It's having the wisdom to decide which paths actually deserve your time and your accountability before you invest in them. The new operating boundary between us and the machines is actually perfectly split. The agent, it owns the inner loop of capability. They investigate, implement, test, and report. They bring back the diffs, the logs, the traces. But the outer loop of agency, that remains strictly human engineering work. We are the ones who decide if the work was even worth doing in the first place. We verify the evidence, and we approve and own what ultimately reaches production. The line isn't just human looks at AI output anymore. The new line is drawn firmly between evidence and responsibility.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, Explain It or Don't Ship, the new operational rule.
Seriously, you need to internalize this completely. Explain it or do not ship it. And it's not because you have to personally type every single character of code anymore. It's because while an AI agent can flawlessly execute a complex runbook, it absolutely cannot inherit the real-world consequences when something blows up in production. Accountability is literally the only thing that lets a scaled system survive. You have to understand the work well enough to defend it. As automation raises the floor, the active engineering just moves up a level. Think about it. Historically, every single time we've made it easier to write software, people panicked and predicted the world would need fewer engineers. But what actually happened? Latent demand unlocked, and we just built way more stuff. Agents are going to do the exact same thing. But remember this, fewer keystrokes absolutely does not mean less engineering. It just creates a massive new surface area that desperately needs your taste, your verification, and your ultimate care.
So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to take straight back to your teams tomorrow morning. As AI builds out your software factory, and as agents run wild inside your inner loops, who exactly owns the blast radius in your codebase? When push comes to shove, who is ultimately accountable for the final verdict on what ships? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start asking these tough questions today. Catch you next time.